for Arfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Arfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside. Decent.
Barnes. He got it. Ashley Barnes with it. What a cross from Rory. And there was Ashley Barnes. And Burnley leading the derby.
Obviously quickly finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell. Saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On it by Paul Teller. Off for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day. And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby.
Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. Comes on the shot.
Oh, the goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello, I want to welcome along to the latest instalment of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, as we look ahead to the midweek trip down to Cardiff, down to South Wales, as we take on Cardiff City, as we try and put that Deepdale debacle behind us in the cup from the weekend. But fingers crossed, the 9 changes are obviously reversed, and we bring the players in that missed out, the likes of Anthony, Trafford, CJ, Roberts, all the main lads will be back in, and fingers crossed we can kick on, because that was awful, as we've already discussed it on the full-time show. But yeah, main focus on the league now is all 100% about getting that second place, and it starts with a trip to Cardiff, as I mentioned. But as always, on the pre-game show, I am joined by a fan of the opposition, and I'm pleased to introduce Tom. He's been on the show plenty of times before. Tom Taylor from a blog, Sport Addicts Corner, and of course, a Cardiff City fan. How are you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good considering Saturday, mate. Good considering Saturday. I'm not going to lie to you. I've already said it on the full-time show, so I know the viewers will be aware. But my head was on Mars when that third goal went in. I completely lost my rag. I'd rather lose that one, though, than lose on Tuesday against you guys. Even though Preston are Lancashire rivals, still, the league's a more important thing. It is a shame to lose the way we lost it, though. And that has left me quite fuming, if I'm being honest with you. However, we kick on. The league is the bread and butter, and that's obviously what we are playing in on Tuesday. We're recording this on Monday, so tomorrow, quick turnaround for podcasts and games. But Tom, talk to me about Cardiff City then, because I was discussing sort of relegation and stuff like that with a few people about 2-3 weeks ago. And I was like, yeah, Cardiff will go. I think Cardiff and Plymouth are both going to go. And then Eustace had just joined Derby, so I remember thinking that they might get out of it. Since then, though, you've drawn a couple of games. You beat Hull at home, so a big result because they're down there with you. And I've just been looking at your fixtures now, and I actually think you might get out of it now. I think they're free to go down. I think Eustace hasn't done anything at Derby. I think he might end up going down with them. And then I still feel like Luton would go, and Plymouth as well, despite their heroics in the cup. But how are you feeling in terms of your season so far? You are down there, but I'm looking at it now thinking you probably will get out of it.
It's relegation's been baffling this year. Every time you think a team has pulled away a bit, it just takes 2 games, and next week they're right back into it again. Portsmouth, I thought were going to pull away massively. They lost to Luton over the weekend. Oxford United, I thought were going to pull away. They lost on the weekend, and all of a sudden, teams are just starting to get crept back into it a little bit. So it's pretty much changing every week. 2 weeks ago, I thought we had a pretty horrendous February after a positive January. And I went from thinking, definitely we're going to stay up, to, no, we're definitely going down now, to now I'm thinking we might stay up again. It's been so strange. It's been a really weird. Championship's always mental, but this year it's felt on another level. And I think when your club's not involved, it's quite exciting to look at, and make that kind of argument of this is why it's probably the most exciting league in England. When your team's down there and you're kind of relying on 4 or 5 results to go your way every week, it's horrible. But yeah, it's been a really, really strange few weeks, and I don't think it's over yet. We got a lot of football left to be played. It's going to be a few more twists and turns.
Yeah, you're probably right, to be fair. I know I've just said, obviously, Derby have gone bottom of the league now. Eustace has gone in and done absolutely nothing. They've looked just as bad under Eustace as they did beforehand, but they may have enough games to get out of it. You are right. They're only 4 points adrift. They are bottom, but they're only 4 points adrift. And it's interesting there that you mentioned Oxford and Portsmouth. I've completely not looked at them two. I was just thinking, right, Derby, Plymouth, Luton, Hull, Cardiff, Stoke. But obviously, Oxford, despite their recent good form, they have been in awful form more recently, if that sentence makes sense. You know what I mean? Since Rowett came in, they did quite well. And recently, they lost 4 out of the last 5. Portsmouth, you mentioned already, they won 3 in a row, did start to look to pull away. So you've gone as high as them two. And then there's a team that you probably want to get dragged into it. There's Swansea City just above them, only 1 point above Portsmouth. And then a team that I wouldn't mind getting dragged into it after everything that's gone on over the last month is Preston North End. Do you think Lights and Swansea or Preston are safe? I mean, Portsmouth, maybe you mentioned Portsmouth, but Swansea only 1 point more than them, so maybe Swansea can get dragged into it. They had a great win, to be fair, against Blackburn, and I'm sure we have different opinions on that result. I absolutely loved it. I bet you hated it, but yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned them. Do you think they'll get dragged into it, Swansea?
I don't think they will. I think they sacked Luke Williams at the right time. I think they can kind of just ride that new manager bounce enough. They've really turned a bit of a corner since he's gone. I think at the time I was a bit like, I think the problems run deeper with them than just Luke Williams. And I thought it could have been the start of a struggle. Turns out it just looks like he was the problem. And again, with Portsmouth, it's a weird one. It's one of those ones that that's kind of like my limit at the minute. I still think they're probably 2 wins away from being sick out of it completely. It's just, I fully expected them to get a result weekend just gone, and then Luton show up out of nowhere and get a win in the game they probably weren't supposed to. So now you're going to be, if you're Pompey, you're kind of almost looking over your shoulder a bit again to see that Oxford aren't a million miles away. We're not far behind Oxford points wise, and it's just really, really tight down there. And I still think Derby are down. Hull haven't done enough, I think, so far under Salis since he was appointed. He was another one that I thought they were going to kind of push on the same way that Derby would have, but it's just I've not seen it. And then that last spot, it could be anybody. It could be us, it could be Plymouth, it could be Stoke. Probably one of those 3. But it's really, really tight down there. It's going to be a nervy last few months for quite a few of us.
Yeah, obviously we've been on it in this kind of scenario in the Premier League, always looking over your shoulder, always looking what's happening, so I completely relate to it. It's interesting you mentioned Hull there. When they came to the turf, yes, we beat them, but I was watching them thinking these are a decent side, they'll be fine, but then they go and lose against you and drag themselves right back into it. So yeah, we've gone full circle here already. You sort of mentioned that you see a few teams, I think they're going to pull away, and then they lose an important game and they get dragged into it. The reason why I think you will survive, completely being a hypocrite from what I said 3 weeks ago, is obviously you got that big win against Hull, a home game against Hull. You also need to play Luton at home, Stoke City at home, and Oxford at home. If you win them 3, I think you'll be fine. So it's perfectly in your own hands, and I think you showed in that game against Hull that you can win these big games at home. Is that how you're feeling at the minute? I mean, you might not feel that you'll win them games and get out of it, but surely the season, like your season, will be defined on them games. It's not going to be defined on Burnley at home.
100%. Those are the big 3 I'm kind of looking at for the rest of the season now. I think it's probably going to be a fairly low-ish tally to keep a team up this year. So I think if we can get those wins against Luton, Stoke and Oxford, that should put us pretty much there or thereabouts in terms of staying up, which is mad because at the start of the year I thought we might push for the playoffs, and that aged well. And we boxed a clever fight against Hull last week, and we let them have quite a lot of the ball. I think a lot of their fans online were saying that Reza coached a really good game from like our perspective, seeing that Hull kind of struggle at home a bit. And when teams sort of stand off a bit and let them have a lot of the ball, they kind of panic a bit and don't really know what to do. And they had a lot of possession, but just did next to nothing with it. And that's exactly how we played last week. So that was interesting to see. In terms of style under Reza, it changes more or less every game. So I think what we're starting to see is definitely against Hull and to an extent against Villa as well in the Cup. Sort of just adapting to teams as they come rather than putting your neck on the line and having, this is how we're going to play football, because then it doesn't work against everyone like that, really, especially when you're in the position that we're in this year now.
Yeah, what's gone wrong then this season? Because I do remember you coming on the show earlier in the season. Obviously, we played you the second game of the season, and you were quite optimistic. Obviously, we ended up winning that game quite comfortably, to be fair. We very outperformed our XG. I think our XG were less than 2. I know a lot of people hate XG, but some people like it as well. We just seemed to click that day, and we were just very, very clinical. But I don't think you were awful. I just feel like we just clicked, and then we obviously sold off the team, and then we've kind of struggled ourselves recently to kick on from there. But what's gone wrong for Cardiff then this season? Because like you said, the fans were optimistic at the start of the season, but now you're looking over your shoulders and worrying about potentially being in League One next season.
It's a bit of everything, really. We just haven't been clinical enough. We create a lot of chances. We're not kind of terrible on the ball. It's just whenever we get to that final third, we don't have that extra yard of pace to put away these chances. The lack of a proper out-and-out striker for a while hurt us, which feels really harsh to say when we've got Callum Robinson, who scored, I think, 13 now for us this year in all competitions. But the way he does so much for us in that he'll help win the ball from midfield, he'll be that extra player to attack from the wing, then all of a sudden there's no one in the box really to kind of play to. Which has changed in signing Yusuf Salek. He's kind of slotted into that role. He's a bit of a poacher, a bit more of a traditional number 9, if such a thing exists anymore. But it's just, just not being clinical enough. Defensively at the start of the season, we were really, really shaky. We had a really tough start as well, fixture-wise. So, like I said, we had Sunderland at home, first game of the season. Then we played you guys. We had a South Wales derby in there. We were home to Leeds as well. And in that time, we only got the 1 point, which was Swansea away. So once that kind of instability sets in, you get into a bad rut. It's easy for things to go south quite quickly. And then when Reza came in, they picked up a bit. We went on that decent run. But I think the board just took way too long in making a decision on him, whether he got the job or not. And, players started to lose a little bit of confidence with that because they, all the reports are the players love him. They love playing for him. But, if you can't get the job after beating Norwich 2-1 at home, if that doesn't solidify that you're getting it, then what more do you need to do? So then we go on that bad run. And he gets the job when we weren't playing particularly great. So it's a bit of stability, but even still, you're in a rough position. And it's just been up and down, really. We go on these runs where we do okay. We don't win games, but we're picking up a lot of draws. And then when it's bad, it's awful. It's absolutely horrific.
Yeah, we'll talk to you about this new manager then. Well, I say new, not new anymore. I think it around December, weren't it? It was made official. You sacked were it Errol Bullets? I never
Errol Bullet,
you sacked him around mid-September, I think it was, maybe. Yeah, around then. Obviously, you've just referenced it there. It took far too long to say they brought him in officially late, mid-December, I think it was. So that takes a while. But talk to me about this new manager then, because I'll be honest, I don't know too much about him. What sort of style of football does he play, and how does he have Cardiff City set up?
You can see he wants to try and implement a sort of attacking, quick style of play, which I really like to see. Like at times when we've won and won quite convincingly, so like when we beat Swansea at home in the derby, it's been that sort of quick passing style of play, utilising the wings a lot, and just trying to break teams down that way. But it's quite an underrated thing he does. He's very good at kind of setting us up for the occasion. So So like I said about earlier against Hull, they struggle to break teams down when they kind of stand off and just let them do what they want. They've struggled quite a bit at home this year. And we set up a bit like an away team at home in that sense. We played a really, really low block against Villa on Friday, and we had 5 at the back, but just didn't utilise wing backs at all. It was basically more of just a flat back 5. And, for about 65 minutes, we frustrated them. And then, it's Aston Villa. They're a Champions League last 16 club, really. It was all just going to kind of unravel a bit at the end. But I think we'll probably see a bit of a similar performance tomorrow against Burnley. We can't really go out and attack straight at you guys because it won't end well. So I think tomorrow we'll probably see again maybe a bit more of a standoff, kind of let you guys have the ball a bit and, see if we can kind of hurt you on the counter.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to ask, how do you think you'll set up against us? Because I genuinely believe that's probably the best way to set up against Burnley. If you sit back and say, you try and break us down, we will struggle. But that's where we've struggled a lot. Like we've had all these home draws that it's a bit of a running joke amongst the EFL and the wider football fan base that Burnley love a 0-0. That personally we hate it. Scott Parker might love them, but it's because all these teams come to the turf and just sit back and we can't break them down. Like we don't create enough. We might be great defensively, but we're not creating enough going forward. So I do feel like just sitting back and then trying to hit us on the break is the best way to do it. However, it's getting to the stage of the season now where, like you said, you're looking over your shoulders, you need points. So do you think it could be a case of sitting back and playing for a 0-0, but then if it gets to like the 60th, 70th minute, maybe going for it a little bit? Or do you think you'd take the point in that scenario?
I think Sunderland might be the game to try and do the sit back until maybe quite late and then see if we can nick something, just because they struggle a little bit sometimes at home, and I think if the supporters can get on their back a bit, it can make it a bit of an uncomfortable atmosphere. For tomorrow, I think I would be more than happy to see us just kind of absorb pressure and see if we can get anything off the breaks. I'm not expecting a great deal, more from just our standpoint, to be honest, and how we should set up to play, one of the 4 best teams in the league this year. And what does kind of worry me a bit is that you've got a lot to kind of play for as well. You're chasing Sheffield United down in second. I think you're going to be pretty desperate for the win. In that sense, it's a big game at opposite ends of the table, really. So that's what kind of worries me. I think if kind of just like switch it up a level, which is why I'd be reluctant to, be defensive for like the 70 odd minutes and then see if we can try and break you down back. Because I think if we do that, if we commit more players forward, then it could be quite costly for us and we could end up losing it late. So I'd imagine we're going to probably be quite defensive, and let you guys have quite a bit of the ball for the game. It probably won't be the best game if that's the case, but we need all the points we can take, to be honest.
Yeah, to be fair, we're hardly known for our free-flowing attacking football. So if you want to shut up shop, I don't think we can hardly complain, to be fair, if the game's not very entertaining. Not many Parker games are very entertaining. What I will say is, though, I do feel like we are more equipped now to break these kind of teams down. If you do want to play in that way, thanks to the signing of Marcus Edwards. He didn't do too well when he came on against Preston, admittedly, but he was absolutely fantastic in that game against Sheffield Wednesday. He was a class above. Everything ticked through him. He scored that great goal. To be fair, when he scored that goal, we were very, very lucky to be going in 1-0, but his just quality just shone through. Is there any players that you keep an eye on at Burnley and think, yeah, he's got bags of quality and he could really hurt us? I mean, me personally, I'd be going for Marcus Edwards based on that. He did look a class above. I feel like he's a signing of the Lefay ilk where he's probably too good for this league. And I am looking forward to see how we play again now with him starting, hopefully, on Tuesday. But is there any players that you're particularly worried of?
Marcus Edwards would be the one for me. But and it's the same with every team we play with is one there. I'm always worried about coming up against Connor Roberts because he's at Swansea. And every time we play Coventry, I'm worried of Casey Palmer. Every time we play anyone with an ex-Swansea player in there, and especially Robbo as well, just because he's such a Swansea City player. Like he's from Swansea. He come through their academy. He was there for God knows how long. He's a proper Swansea boy. He's gonna relish an opportunity like this. So he's the one that kind of scares me a bit, because he'll be playing with just that little extra oomph. Like I could really ruin some people's nights tonight if I play well, and even if I get on the score sheet or just assist or something, and I have the opportunity to do a swim away of the crowd. Like he's going to have that, I imagine, that little kind of extra spring in his step. So he's one I'm already kind of dreading the thought of having to play against.
Yeah, fair enough. You know what? I completely forgot about that, but Roberts will be well up for it. Like you said, he is Swansea through and through. I'm pretty certain he'll be going back there in the summer. His contract's out, and it's looking like he's going back to Swansea. Which for me, I think is mad. I think you should stay at the top end of the Championship. I still think he's a very good Championship fullback. No disrespect to Swansea, but I guess he could get them an extra 10 points in a season, because he is a very, very good Championship fullback. He did get on the score sheet against Sheffield Wednesday. I'm sure you're aware of that, so I'm sure he'll be trying to get on it again. But yeah, it's a good point, that, mate. And I'm glad you brought it up, because I did forget about it. Speaking of quality, though, is there any particular players that you feel can hurt Burnley? I know you've mentioned Callum Robinson already, who's your leading goal scorer so far this season, with 12 goals, according to stats I've got up on my screen now. You've got Colwill as well. Is there anybody else that can hurt Burnley?
I'd say Colwill's definitely up there. Whenever the occasion's big, and annoyingly, usually when we're on TV, that's when he kind of plays at his best. I was interested to see how he would go on Friday in the Cup against Villa, with him and Aaron Ramsey both starting, because I thought they'd be quite similar players. But between them, that's a really solid partnership, which is kind of worrying, because I thought he played outstanding on Friday. And it's those big games where the opponents are, that step above. And if you can perform like that, it's other teams are starting to take notes. So I was on Twitter, like during the games, I was watching it, and I see Aston Villa fans, Palace, Tottenham saying like, "Oh, that Colwill looks all right for Cardiff." And it's like, yeah, we know, and we'd appreciate if you'd stop tweeting about it. I think now that Ramsey's back, they can really kind of play to each other's strengths quite well. And when the occasion's big, he does kind of turn it on a bit. So I think he'd be one definitely to look out for, with some of the passes he was stringing together on Friday. Some of the balls he can put forward are really, really good. So that could be an area where maybe we could hurt you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. He looks a fantastic player, to be fair. So yeah, completely agree with that. And I get it as well, because every time we're on TV, well, pretty much every time we play now, there's Newcastle fans tweeting about Trafford and stuff. And obviously he's on this magnificent clean sheet run that could get an NFL Hall of Fame or out of retirement. So obviously that's everywhere at the minute. So every Premier League fan particularly wants him to play. I've even seen Man United fans tweeting about him and stuff like that, which I'm not sure as a City Academy product that would be something to go down. But we'll see. Put it this way, whether Burnley promoted or not, James Trafford will be in the Premier League next season. But that brings me on nicely. We've spoken, that's not even a word, spoken about the relegation battle and things like that. What's your predictions then for the final relegation picture at the end of the season? Do you think Cardiff City, if I had to put you on the spot now, do you think Cardiff City will be in League One next season or the Championship?
On the spot right now, I think we'll still be in the Championship. I agree. We've got those 3 very, very big games at home. And, there's probably some freak win in there somewhere against a bigger side where we'd have no right to win. Tomorrow. No, I
against Sunderland, please, mate.
Sunderland, yeah, it could be. I'm looking at we still have to play West Brom at home. We still have to play Wednesday at home. And it's just, I don't know, games like that in particular, I'm like, just because there's no reason for us to win it, it makes me think, oh, maybe we could kind of sneak some in there, because it's just that type of league. So I think we'll be okay. it'll end up being quite close. But I think with maybe, I don't know, 2 games to go, I think we'll be safe. Best case scenario.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've mentioned them already, but Luton, Stoke, and Oxford games all being at home and massive. If they were away, I might feel a little bit different about it.
Yeah.
But I feel like you'll have enough to get over the line, and I agree. You're going to pick up points in other games as well. But I think even if you just won them 3 games between now and the end of the season, that would probably just about keep you up. But you're going to win them 3, in my opinion, and potentially pick up some other points elsewhere. But I'm sure Luton, Stoke, and Oxford fans might have something to say about that. But I'm not sure many will be watching a Burnley versus Cardiff City pre-game show on a Burnley-centric channel, to be fair. So, Sodom. Other predictions as well, please, mate. Top of the table. Leeds are probably going to win it. I mean, you might have a different opinion, but I think Leeds will win the league now. Who goes up in second? Do you think Burnley can catch Sheffield United from the outside looking in, or do you think Sheffield United might just have too much? Because to be fair to Sheffield United, they don't look great. And they never seem to look like they are playing well, but they always seem to win, annoyingly.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's just when they came to the Cardiff City Stadium just for Christmas, they won 2-0, but they weren't good. Like, they didn't create a great deal of chances. They were clinical, and Kiefer Moore scored against us because, of course, he would. He's ex-Cardiff. Why wouldn't he? It's just such a hard team to try and break down. It's like, they are really good. On paper, they probably should be pushing Leeds more than they kind of are, rather than looking over their shoulder of, oh, are we going to finish second or third? So I think Burnley have the quality, especially if Trafford keeps this insane run that he's on, where he's not conceding anything. And defensively, if you stay as strong as you have all year, I really think you could push it again. It might come down to the last day. If I'm on the spot right now, I think I would say Sheffield United, but whoever comes third, I think will win the playoffs quite handily. Just because I think there's that much of a kind of a gap of quality between the current top 4 and who else might make up those playoff places. And at the minute, I have Sunderland finishing 4th, and I don't know how much I trust them over 2 legs of a game of that size, to be honest.
Yeah, Sunderland are another weird one. That they are genuinely the best team I've seen at the turf this season, in my opinion. They were superb. Bellingham's fantastic. So is Rigg, and obviously you've got some brilliant fullbacks there as well. I think they really are a good team. But then they're just not consistent enough at all. And then they lose at home to Hull, for example. And obviously I was buzzing with that. But you're just thinking, when you played against Burnley twice, because I was at the Stadium of Light as well, both games they were superb. And they should be, from what I saw in them 2 games, pushing the top 2 a lot more, but I feel like they're falling away a little bit. In terms of playoffs, Coventry are worrying me at the minute, but they might have peaked too soon. Obviously, they've won 8 out of 9, so they'd worry anybody. We've still got to go to Coventry yet as well, by the way. So that's the fixture that I'm looking at, thinking we could slip up here. But we also do have to play Sheffield United. That's at home, though. So I actually do think we win that one, if I'm being honest. But hopefully that win puts us above them, because who does Sheffield United play on the final day of the season? Blackburn Rovers, and there is no chance that Blackburn Rovers will win that match. So we need to be above them 100% on the final day of the season. Sticking with predictions, though, mate. Predictions for the game, then, please. You've already said you don't think it'll be an entertaining affair. I think literally every Burnley fan will agree with that. None of our games usually are. But what score do you think it'll be?
So I'm going to be incredibly basic. I'm not going with my heart, because I did that earlier in the season and said we draw 1-1 and we lost 5-0, so that got me far. I'm going to go with my head this time around. I think it's going to be another 0-0, just because of how much we kind of need points. I think there'll be a bit of a spring in our step after a big result against Hull, and didn't disgrace ourselves whatsoever against Villa on Friday. I think we'll just have enough to kind of keep it tight, much to the joy of the population of Cincinnati as they get closer to getting JJ Watt out of retirement potentially. But yeah, I think it's a point would be a really, really good result for us. So yeah, I think it's going to be another 0-0.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like this clean sheet thing is going to come to an end soon. For those that, obviously, I know every Burnley fan watching this will know, but just for your benefit and any Cardiff fans that might be watching, we have recently lost Bashir Humphreys to injury. And Lucas Perez, he doesn't look up to it, to be fair. For me, I've literally 2 weeks ago, I was trying to protect him try to stick up for him on the podcast, saying he's not that bad. But then he put in another honking performance in against Preston, and I'm thinking maybe he is. So if you can try and go down our left-hand side and focus down that, then you might get some joy. And it might be more of a 1-1 rather than a 0-0. But yeah, obviously we can't be doing with draws now. We need to. This is our game in hand against Sheffield United and Leeds. We need to win it, and we've got Luton at home on Saturday as well. So anything other than 6 points just isn't good enough. And I think because of that, we will get it over the line. I think it'll be tight. Like you said, you'll set up to make the game tight. I think we obviously have struggled to break teams down, but I feel like 2 months ago, say if it's 0-0 on the 70th minute, for example, Scott Parker would be more cautious and think, well, I don't really want to lose the game. Whereas now I think that the mindset hopefully has changed to a case of 70th minute, we have to go and get the win. I'd rather lose the game trying to win than just settle for a 0-0, as bizarre as that sounds, because 0-0s just aren't enough for us now. So we need to try and go for it. So I think it's tight, but I think we score so like halfway through the second half, and then once we go ahead, the chances are we shut up shop. But yeah, if 1-0 to Burnley or 2-1, something like that, I think the clean sheet record, as I said, I think we'll just miss out on the Van der Sar thing, and it probably will end up having a team score against us soon. Fingers crossed it's not Tuesday. I'm sure you disagree, but hopefully we do you a favour on Saturday as well and beat Luton for you. But I think we beat them as well. But yeah, famous last words. It will end up losing both games. Fingers crossed. Obviously, I'm wrong on that last bit. But just before we go, mate, do you want to let everybody know where they can find you in any Cardiff City or wider football content that you may produce?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. The handle at Thomas Taylor 4. It's Thomas without the H. And then in my bio there, I've got a link to my blog, Sport Addict Corner, where I post football content on there, but I'm more like general sports stuff as well. I've got a Six Nations like final review piece coming in a couple of weeks. So if you're a rugby fan, then that might be of interest. But I got stuff on there as well about like boxing, NFL, and all that sort of stuff. So if that sounds like a bit of you, then be sure to head over there and have a read.
Yeah, definitely. I'll make sure people do that. I'll try and put a link in the bio and everything if I remember, because I'm not going to edit this till tonight, and my memory is absolutely awful, mate. But please do check Tom's blog out. Absolutely great stuff. Tom, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate you coming on again. Me being the most unorganised person in the world, I sent Tom a message very late last night. I'm like, oh, yes, I need to do the pre-game show. But Tom was obviously more than willing, so I do appreciate it, mate. Thank you for coming on. Good luck for the rest of the season, just after Tuesday. But genuinely, mate, I think you do stay up.